What does it mean to experience true transformation? Not just changing your life a little bit, but experiencing a transformation in which lasting change occurs. And what does it mean to live life feeling fully alive? Those are questions I like to ponder and goals that I've been after myself for several years now. I first became fascinated with that idea of transformation as a kid. Around 16 or 17 years old, I started reading my mom's books that she had lying around the house on personal growth, psychology, spirituality. I found books of hers like Gary Zukav's The Seat of the Soul, Eckhart Tolle, ideas that we could be more of an observer of our emotions and our thoughts. I remember one book I read that described thinking of our emotions and thoughts more like a river that runs through us, that we could be a curious observer of those thoughts and feelings rather than be immersed and overtaken by them. I loved that idea. I really wanted to grasp hold of some of those concepts and practices for myself just to overcome suffering. At that age, I was struggling with a little bit of depression, a little bit of anxiety, and I was acutely aware of a sense of low self-esteem. I really wanted to connect with other people, to have deep and meaningful friendships and relationships. And yet, whenever I did connect with other people, I felt such an uncomfortable sense of vulnerability and insecurity. I was always kind of trying to hide myself, and I knew that that was holding me back from experiencing some things that I really wanted to fully experience, like connection with other people. At that time, I was also starting to envision a life for myself, a life in which I wanted to live big, and I knew that some of those insecurities, depression, and anxiety were going to be a hurdle I was going to need to learn to overcome. So a lot of those authors and teachers around spirituality and psychology, those topics became really fascinating to me. I was desperate to find strategies to feel better. I really wanted to live life feeling satisfied. I started to grasp hold of the teachings of a lot of spiritual leaders, authors, and teachers who taught about overcoming past pain, overcoming trauma, hardship, and going on to lead lives that were successful and fulfilling. I studied people who had experienced that personally, and I thought, I really want to figure out how to experience that for myself. Fast forward to now, it's no surprise I became a therapist. I've always loved anything around the idea of growth, around healing, any practice or strategy that just helps to overcome hurdles that are keeping us from our goals and our dreams. As a clinical therapist, I utilize a lot of evidence-based practices like cognitive behavioral therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, and exposure and response prevention. All modalities that are incredibly helpful. I've seen those strategies work really well for a lot of my clients. And I myself use a lot of the practices from those therapeutic modalities in my own life personally. And there are a lot of other practices and strategies that I've done over the years that have been equally transformative in my own journey. And while those modalities have been incredibly helpful for me personally, as well as for my clients, there are a lot of other practices, concepts, strategies out there in the world that are not from that traditional therapeutic lens. Practices like meditation. I think meditation has been the single most transformative practice that I've engaged with over the years. It truly changed my life, the way that I experienced the world, and it's just helped me in so many ways. And there are a lot of other practices similar to that. I've always been fascinated by that intersection of psychology and spirituality, and when I find some practices that are more in the spiritual realm rather than the psychological or scientific realm, I'm always kind of thinking about it through a psychological lens. How is meditation helpful? Meditation is similar to some other concepts that we use in psychology and in the therapy world. There are a lot of other practices that are similar. Sometimes I'm thinking about a concept like prayer. I always think about some of those spiritual practices through the lens of neuroscience. So that's what I'd love to do on this channel, is create a space for discussing and sharing some of the ideas, concepts, strategies, practices that I've found to be incredibly helpful on my own journey, practices that have been incredibly helpful for the people who I know and love, as well as for my clients. I would love to share and discuss some of those topics on this channel with you. I would also love to know in the comments if there have been practices that have been key in your own transformative journey. I would love to know about those as well. Thank you so much for checking out my channel. I look forward to connecting again soon.